All right, everyone. Good evening, good morning. We'll get started with the session. In today's session, we'll try to understand what exactly is Vlocity, what it is doing, and why Salesforce had gone to an extent where now it has acquired. It's been 1 year since Salesforce themselves have acquired Vlocity, and yep, let's try to get a clear picture of what exactly Vlocity is. All right, so. All right. Yep. That will be our today's agenda. First thing is we'll see what what Vlocity is and what it does in Salesforce. And whenever we listen to a term called industry clouds, whenever we hear Vlocity, we always come across a particular term called industry clouds. We'll try to see what exactly that is and advantages of using Vlocity over. There are so many other platforms that are available in the market, so many other industry cloud specific domains. Why do we go for Vlocity and what is the advantages of using it? And there are certain components provided by Vlocity, so we'll try to understand all of that. All right, so the first thing is not just specific to Salesforce, any cloud platform usually offers 3 different services, right? The first one is infrastructure as a service. So it basically means that all they provide is storage, servers, network, anything that comprises of physical entities, right? They are going to provide that, so you don't have to worry about maintaining it or buying, any physical space. So these cloud platforms will take care of that, right? And the next layer is platform as a service, wherein using this infrastructure, using Salesforce, using any cloud platform's infrastructure, a platform is built so that that will be used by some other clients, and in turn can develop some other applications, requirement specific applications to use on going ahead. They can use that. And finally we have SaaS layer, so which we all mostly will be aware or working, which is basically in Salesforce, any CRM application that we are building, all the developers, we are just using SaaS capability of Salesforce. That means we use Salesforce and we build a software for the client, and clients can start using it without having any application installed in the system. It's just online, so all they need is an internet connection and a browser, right? No need of installing any software and no need to maintain anything. So this is what we usually do in Salesforce. We use SaaS capability. So using Salesforce data model, Salesforce objects, fields, creating custom objects, using a whole lot of customizations, everything. We build an application for the end client, right? But the second layer is what we are going to look at now, right? Vlocity uses Salesforce and it builds a platform on top of it. There are quite a few examples. We have Viva, Vlocity, there's CPQ. There are so many other, managed packages that are available in Salesforce. They are all going to use Salesforce and create a platform. And using that platform, we can build much more customized and much better applications, maybe a little faster, depending on how we need it, right? So that's the layer which we are going to talk. So this is technically speaking, this is what Vlocity is. They are nothing but using Salesforce. They are creating a platform, and we are going to use that. So when I say creating a platform, it basically means they are going to give you a managed package which you can install in your Salesforce org, and in turn can start working on building an application using certain things provided by Vlocity. You don't have to build most of the application right from the scratch, because Vlocity provides you all of that, right? Right. So in Vlocity, we constantly hear a term called industry-specific cloud, industry clouds. What exactly is this? Nowadays, Salesforce themselves, not just Salesforce, all the cloud platforms are concentrating on this industry clouds, right? In Salesforce itself, you would have heard marketing cloud, commerce cloud, a lot of other things, health clouds and all. It's similarly, first the concept was brought into Salesforce by Vlocity, right? It started this back in, I think, around 2015, 2016. They started with this concept of industry clouds. So what exactly is that, and how does it matter? Right? Let's look into it. So let's take an example. Right now, like COVID pandemic is there, so we all know how things are going. So when we all know that multiple companies are trying to, create a vaccine for this, right? So usually any pharma company who works on a particular drug and gets into the market, they follow a business process, right? So maybe yeah, in India it's a little different case where you go to any medical store, you can ask for any tablet or any drug that you may get. But yeah, outside it's a little different, right? Unless or until you have a prescription, you're not going to get the drugs, right? So if that is the case, how these companies, these pharma companies, uh, get their products into the market and like beat the competition, basically. So they'll have a whole lot of process to in order to develop a drug and get it into the market. So they are going to do these clinical trials. Once all the clinical trials are successful, they will have some sales agents from them, right? All these big companies, Pfizer, Novartis, there are so many, Moderna, all these companies are there. So they are going to give, for COVID, it's a little different scenario because everything is in rush, but usually this is the process. They'll send the sales agents to doctors and hospitals. They'll explain about their products, why their product is better than the products that are already available in the market. And they give some samples to the doctors and hospitals. And if they like the product, then they start prescribing these products. That's how these pharma companies increase their sales, right? So whichever pharma company it is, be it Novartis, be it Pfizer, be it any other pharma company, the process is same. For to fit all this business process, they may require a software to track everything right from its clinical trial stage till the product gets into the market and who all doctors and hospitals they have visited. So yep, basically they need a software to handle all of these CRM application, right? So they can build a CRM application in Java, they can build in Salesforce, they can build in Microsoft Azure or whatever it is, Amazon Cloud, any platform. But the business process is always the same. So that's where Vlocity came to picture. So they understood that for certain domains, the business process is never going to change. The application may change, the way clients want the UI or clients want their backend, these may change, but the business process is never going to change. And that's where Vlocity came into picture and started this industry clouds, right? So whatever yeah, whatever industries, like for example, Vlocity is into 6 industries right now: communications, media, entertainment, energy utilities, insurance, health, and government. These are all the 6 different industries Vlocity is concentrating. So what they do here is, irrespective of which client they are, mostly their data model or most of the functionalities, for example, Flipkart and Amazon, the UI is different, the way they deliver the products and everything is different, but the backend logic is mostly same. Maybe some new features here and there could be different, but most of the logic, most of the things that happen in the background is always same. So that's what Vlocity has done. If it is same, why not streamline the whole process? And why not provide everything? Why do you have to build things right from the scratch when you can already give them pre-handed, right? So Vlocity has identified these 6 industries. They're working on extending it up to 15. Right now, they are stabilizing these 66 different industries. And for each industry, Vlocity has provides a data model. Vlocity's data model is always going to be built on top of Salesforce existing data model, which is they use accounts, they use orders, they use order line items, quotes, quote line items, opportunities, all these standard objects, and extend the data model by creating more custom objects and relationships. to fit in the business process of that particular industry. For example, communications outside India, it's more of an e-commerce platform where you go to their websites, you buy a plan, and you do the payment there itself. You buy a SIM card, you upload your documents. So that's a whole same procedure for all the communications. So in the backend, they will for every customer that comes in, they'll create an order, and all the products they choose are converted into order line items. Like the process is same. So it could be Vodafone, or it could be British Telecom, or it could be AT&T or Verizon or Telstra. Whichever country, whichever telecom operator, whichever client, the data model hardly here and there little tweaks, but mostly it is same. And that's what Vlocity is doing. Using the PaaS layer of Salesforce, they create a managed package which consists of so many custom objects, relationships, VF pages, lightning components, controllers, batch classes, a lot of customization. I mean, they will do all the customization from their end. But all you have to do is install the package. And yep, once you install, you can make a little changes here and there. So it'll be all fine. You can start using the application. Usually, any project that starts right from the scratch, we developers think it's okay. That's the starting point. But at least 5 to 6 months before itself, the brainstorming on the data model happens. Because if the data model is not correct, then your project eventually is going to break down. So that's why a lot of time will be spent on deciding on how the data model is going to be. So when you use Vlocity for any of these 6 industries, you don't have to worry about that. Because Vlocity already has created a data model. For most of the requirements, it will be sufficient. Maybe 1 or 2 objects here and there you may have to create. And not just that, they provide so many other customized processes. For example, you go to Amazon and you apply promotion, some promo code you have and you applied, or a referral code, so which gives you $100, 100 rupees off, right? So applying that promotion and reducing the price of that particular order is the same process. So why to build it again? Vlocity already gives you an Apex class. All you have to do is just use it. Call that Apex class. That's it. So for so many standard or generalized requirements, Vlocity has already provided you a lot of things. So all you have to do is just use the right Apex class at the right time and pass the right inputs. Right? And yep, these are all few of the customers that are using Vlocity. This is a little old slide. So yep, almost 250 plus clients are already using Vlocity across the globe, across multiple, all these 6 industries. CMT and insurance are the most stabilized and the ones which have more clients. Especially CMT, it has a lot of customizations already done by Vlocity. So most of the clients of this communications, media, and entertainment, all they have to just simply download this package and start using it. So a few of the examples are Verizon, one of the top telecom operator in US, British Telecom started using it. Rogers in Canada, TELUS in Canada, M1 in Singapore, Vodafone very recently has started this. Telstra has started this using Vlocity. So yep, these are all success stories that who already implemented Vlocity and using Vlocity, right? So yep, even for government sector, there are multiple governments, US government, New Zealand government, Australian government are already using Vlocity, right? Right. It's all good. Data model. All of these are provided by Vlocity, but is that it? So only for that you won't spend so much of money on buying the Vlocity licenses again separately, right? So let's see what are all the other advantages of Vlocity and what are all the other out-of-the-box features that you can use once you install the Vlocity's package. Right? The first one, as we discussed, it provides industry-specific data model, extending the Salesforce existing data model. Right? So if you are looking at insurance domain, then it uses accounts, contacts, users, and it uses quote line item, product, all these objects. These are all standard Salesforce. Again, if it is communications, then you are going to use orders, order line items, and all of these objects. So you would create a Velocity will has created so many other custom objects on top of these things around these objects. For example, order line items. So when you are applying promotions, you may need more objects. So they will create a promotion object. They'll create a few more custom objects around those so that you can use. I mean, most of your business requirements fit right in. You don't have to do any more of customization. The next thing is when you have to build complex business flows, you can use Velocity to make the development much simpler and much faster. Someone has any question? All right, okay. Moving on. Right. So you can build complex business flows and complex functionalities using Velocity.
Hey, sorry to interrupt you.
No problem.
I just want to ask you, do you mind introducing yourself? Just give your.
Oh, yep. Sorry for that. Yes. Yeah.
Thank you. No problem.
Yep. I missed it. Okay. Yeah. So myself, I'm Dilip. I have over 8+ years of IT experience, and from the last 5 years, I'm into Velocity, and from last 2 years, I'm into Velocity Training. So, yep, I have worked in almost 6 to 7 different Velocity, especially into telecom domain, 6 to 7 different telecom projects. So, yep, that's about me. And yep, from last 2 years, I've been working on trainings, multiple trainings across various institutes, and I've given some corporate trainings as well from like some Canadian-based companies, some US-based companies, and some India-based companies. So yep, that's about myself. Yep, sorry I missed it. I should have told it in the start.
No, thank you so much.
Right. All
right. This is Sunil here. I have one question, Dilip.
Yes.
Velocity, we need like integration with other system is easy.
Right.
So my question is that we required the middleware requirement is there if we use the Velocity, like MuleSoft or any MDW required for if customer wants to.
Yep, it's better to have a middleware because sometimes, we'll just get to that part. So it's basically, there could be some situations where you may have to execute multiple API calls on one click of a button in the UI. So that's why you would require middleware so that they can call multiple different APIs of your backend, which could be which will be your Velocity in the most cases. Yep, I'll get to that part. I'll give you some brief idea on a few of the projects that are already implementing and how they are working. Right. Your voice was breaking, so yeah. Okay, yeah, sure. We'll continue. All right. The next thing is developing any complex logics and functionalities, both UI and front-end, is going to be very easy and very fast. We'll see how. We'll see Velocity provides certain components which you can use, which will all be configurable components. You don't have to write a single line of code and still execute same kind of functionalities what you do in your Apex code or your JavaScript. And yep, that way it becomes much faster and easier. We'll see more about that. And integrating with other systems is going to be very easy. So it's like when you want to invoke any external systems API like MuleSoft, or when you want to expose Salesforce data through an API, you can do all of that using configuration. It takes literally half the time to build using this to build those APIs using Velocity components rather than going for Apex. We'll see some of them. And in Vlocity, JSON is the preferred format for all the data processing. So JSON is one of the easiest, lightweight, and faster processing language. It's like even someone who has no idea about JSON, just a look of it, you will be able to know what is going on and what data is being passed. Right. And there are certain out of the box features provided by Vlocity. These are so good. Some of them are so good. Some clients are using Vlocity just for one specific feature of all of these, or one or two features. Most of them would be using all of these. Some don't want to move entire project to Vlocity because it takes too much efforts and too much cost. So there are certain features like order management, EPCCP. So some projects are only coming to Vlocity just to use these. So these things are that good in Vlocity. So first thing is order capture journey. You can build complex order capture journey. So order capture journey is nothing but any e-commerce platform, not specific to telecom or any specific industry, any e-commerce platform, Amazon, Flipkart included. There will be two different processes that will be involved when you make an order as a customer. From the time as a customer I enter Amazon's website and till the time I make the payment, that whole process is called order capture, because we are trying to capture Amazon is trying to capture the information from you so that they can start processing the orders, they can fulfill the order, right? So when I go to Amazon, I go to mobiles category, I pick a specific mobile, I choose the configuration of RAM, memory, all these things, and click on proceed to checkout. Then give my address, give my login details. If I'm new customer, I'll create an account and then proceed on to payment by adding the card details and everything. Finally, order summary page. So this whole thing is called order capture journey. You can build complex order capture journeys using Vlocity with a very simple, very easy to understand configurable components. Vlocity provides us certain components which makes life of developers much easier. All right. And next thing is to build these complex, business flows and backend logics, including both UI and backend logics. It is we are going to use declarative approach. That means if you remember Salesforce when it started, not even until the lightning came into picture, they used to say so much like if you use Salesforce, only 60% of 40% you need customization, less 60% you can go ahead with the configuration. But that never really will be true in a Salesforce project. Salesforce projects become so code heavy, like eventually like you need to optimize the applications in such a way that the load time of each page or load time of everything reduces, because every client want more and more customizations. So every time you want to do a customization, you go for code, right? So Vlocity comes here and sticks to its point. It says that almost 80% of that application can be built without using single line of code. Rest 20%, maybe we may require it, because Vlocity has almost replacement, or whatever you can do in your Apex code, you can do same thing using Vlocity's components all through configuration. Let's discuss more about that in the upcoming slides. Right. Then comes our order management process. Order management is the next part of your order capture journey. So Amazon's job is not done once you place the order. They have to get that particular product delivered to you, right? So that particular thing has to be handled really well, because each product may need a different process. For example, I go and buy a SIM card. There are a lot of back-end process that will be involved. Once I do the payment, I have to verify the documents online, and I have to reserve that particular mobile number to the customer, and I have to like just like mobiles have IMEI, every SIM card will have some ID called ICC ID. So they have to tag that. They have to make contact with that particular country's telecom regulatory authorities to inform that this number is chosen by this particular customer, so that it will not be available for others. And sorry for the disturbance. There was a power cut here. Right. So yeah, they once you buy the SIM card, there's a whole lot of process. Then finally, uh, once the documents are verified, once you block that number, once you reserve that it for that particular customer, and then tagging this ICC ID, and finally, once all of this process is done, you'll send it to a third-party systems to deliver it to the customer. Finally, the activation happens. Right? There is this much of process involved when you are buying a SIM card. But next month, if I come back and buy a mobile plan, let's say 699 plan. So if the SIM card is active, I just have to activate. So it needs a different process. Next time I come back and I buy mobile phone in, like, let's say, usually in other countries, these telecom operators also sell mobiles. So when I when I buy a mobile phone, it has a different process. So each product that a customer buys will have a different process to make sure that the product is delivered to the end customer, and that process is called order management. And Vlocity provides us most dynamic, most robust, and most advanced order management process in the market across all the platforms. There are so many clients, so many customers that come to Vlocity, that starts using Vlocity. They don't have so much budget, but they want to use this order management process because it's that good. It involves two different components again, orchestration and decomposition. Literally, most of all of these things, like right from, for example, when I buy a SIM card, triggering an email to the customer, till making sure that the product is delivered, all the backend processes that are involved can be simply configured at design time. You don't even have to bother later on about what is happening and how to do it and all. Right? So that's another feature. And next thing, one of the most important is Vlocity provides us EPC, that means Enterprise Product Catalog. If you go to Amazon, you'll see a button called Shop by Category. So based on each category, you will buy a product. So for any e-commerce platform, they need a product catalog. Just like when you go to restaurant, you'll get a menu card, right? So to know that, to know which all items that are available in that particular restaurant. So just like that, for all the e-commerce platforms, we need a product catalog. And Vlocity gives you a powerful tool called Vlocity Product Console. Using that, you can build most dynamic product catalogs. One of the best example will be Tata Sky, right? For example, if you want to buy a sports channel, like let's say Sony 6, buying a Sony 6, you can go and buy the individual channel, or you can go and buy all the Sony channels, or you can buy all English sports channels. So you have multiple ways to buy the same product. And another example will be when you go and buy a product in Amazon, mobile phone in Amazon, it also offers you a screen guard and back cover for a lesser price, right? So you can configure all of that. You can configure any kind of complex product structure using Vlocity Product Console, which is basically a catalog-driven architecture that is called as EPC, Enterprise Product Catalog, right? And if you have such kind of complex product catalog, you also need to have a complex pricing, and that's when Vlocity CPQ comes into picture. So Vlocity CPQ offers us our most advanced pricing, right? So when I buy a mobile phone, when I choose 128 GB memory, then the price will be different. When I buy 256, it will be different. When I buy a different color, it may be different. When I buy multiple products together as a bundle, like buying this Tata Sky again, buying Sony 6. If I buy Sony 6 channel, it will be maybe 20 rupees. If I buy all English sports channels, which includes at least 10 different channels, then that pack cost me maybe around only 40 rupees. Right? When I'm buying together, the price will be less. When I'm buying individually, the price will be more. So you can configure all this kind of complex pricing using Vlocity CPQ. There is a difference between CPQ and Vlocity CPQ. Vlocity CPQ is much simplified and much easier version of CPQ. It's a customized version to fit into this, especially into telecom. I mean, normal CPQ has too many features which are not even be applicable or useful in telecom. So Vlocity has customized in such a way that you'll only be use limited features which are most fitting for telecom industry, especially telecom and energy utilities and media, right? And finally, we have one more thing called digital commerce and card-based APIs, which is also there in Salesforce, but yeah, it's a little extension to that. These are basically, for example, just like I said, promotion. When I want to apply some promo code, it has to reduce the price. So the functionality is always same, applying it, and you have to make all the calculations in the backend and reduce the price. So you don't have to build every time, right from the scratch. Vlocity already provides you that as an API. You just have to make a call to that. You have to invoke that particular API, which is again a very simple thing in Vlocity. Right? So there are certain APIs. There are more than 100 to 150 APIs provided by Vlocity for different functionalities. They are divided into two parts, like card-based APIs and digital commerce APIs. So, and finally, we have one more thing called industry-specific data models, which we had discussed in the earlier part, where Vlocity provides us industry-specific data models, which are basically more customized on data model of Salesforce existing data model. Right. Now, let's take a look at certain Vlocity components. Vlocity provides us two sets of components, interaction tools and data tools. Interaction tools are the ones which we use on the UI. Data tools are the ones which we can use to run backend logic. So interaction tools for front-end logics, data tools for backend logics. So let's see briefly see each of them a little bit. So first, interaction tool will be your Omni Scripts. So Omni itself, the name itself indicates that Omni means a guided flow. So you can build a guided flow scripts. So all using configuration. So one example I can give. M1 Telecom is basically a Singapore-based telecom operator, and they are using Vlocity except for the first page. Loading, just give it a minute. Yep, except for the first page, everything else is built using Omni Script, and most of it is a configuration. I can say almost 90% of it is configuration. Right? All you see on this UI basically is all configuration. Right? And automatically the price changing. All of this can be dealt with in Vlocity by simple configuration. Right? You can see there's a whole lot of functionality actually involved. The moment I load this page, a new set of numbers will appear here. Basically, this is an API call. And when I go for port in option, I have to enter my mobile number here. When I enter any number which doesn't start with 9 or 8, it gives me invalid number. And in the backend, another API calls, which fetches me a temporary mobile number. And once I enter the mobile number, it validates whether I'm an exact. So that's another API call to validate whether I'm already M1 customer or another operator. Right? This is another API call to fetch all the available telcos in Singapore. Okay? So all this functionality can literally be built without even having to write a single line of code. For example, this is a text block in Vlocity. There is in the Omni script, there is a component called text. block, you can simply use the text block. This is nothing but a radio button. And this is basically a text block again. And this is something called selectable items. And this is again a text field. So, right? This is a simple checkbox. This is again a headline. So yep, these are all configurable components that are provided by Vlocity in the Omni script. Omni script is more like a replacement of your Visual Force Lightning component or LWC component. Right? In the Omni script, you can whatever logic you build for the UIs in Lightning or Visual Force page, the same thing can be done in Omni scripts, all with configuration. Okay? Except for some things like, for example, this number is getting highlighted in orange. There is an orange line here. There is this orange color. So these UI stylings, you have to go for CSS, HTML things. Right? So for those cases, Vlocity provides you something called templates, which will accept Angular JavaScript code. Right? So it's more like it will have HTML, CSS, and Angular JavaScript. You can use any of these three things using a template. So when you want to apply additional styling, when you want to enrich your UI, like making it bold, highlighting it in orange, making it come in green color, having a background image. So these things, you obviously need a UI styling. So for that, we have something called templates, right? In which you can write HTML, CSS, and Angular JavaScript code, right? And next thing is cards. Cards are mostly for customer care purposes. So whenever you, all these telecom operators need to have this customer care, right? So that customers can call in and they can deal certain things over the phone itself. So when a customer calls in, you may have to do a lot of things. He may ask you to send me the current month's bill to my email address, or he may ask the customer care agent to update his alternate contact number or update address, update payment details. He can ask anything. So using cards, you can configure all of that you can put all of that together in one single screen. Right? The card's definition itself provided by Vlocity is it gives you a 360-degree view of a particular customer. So your customer care agent need not have to go to this object, that object, update this, update that. It doesn't have to go anywhere. You can do all of that in a single screen like this. This is one such example for a telecom client. So you can see on the left hand side, you are seeing all the image. There is an account number, billing address, phone, all these, and then previous order details. And then the same customer has multiple products available for him. So or each of their status, each of their monthly bills, and you can see a lot of buttons involved here. So you can configure all of this in a single screen using a card. This is another example for an insurance client. Right? So cards are there. The sole purpose of them is to provide 360-degree view of a customer. Right? So these are some of the interaction tools. Most probably you can achieve most of the things that you do in using your Lightning component or a Visual Force page using Omni Scripts or templates or cards, mostly with the configuration except for the UI styling. Except for enriching your UI, most of the things can be achieved using Omni Scripts and cards. Right. The next set of components are data tools. So whatever logics you execute, all the backend logics which you execute in Apex class, in your Apex controllers, you can do all of that using these data tools. Let's take example of few of them. Data after extract is nothing but your replacement of your SOQL query. So whatever query you write in normal Salesforce, for example, I want to fetch some account details by passing account number or account ID as an input. I have to write an Apex class in the backend. I have to execute this logic. But in Vlocity, you simply create a data after extract, which is configurable tool. You can configure each of these things, which object, what are the fields you want to extract, and what are the filter conditions. It will do its job. It will extract the data and converts it into a JSON format, and you can create a JSON structure of your own using this, and you pass it on to your Omni Scripts or any front-end system. Then data after load, which will take care of all the DML operations that you can execute in Apex class. You want to update, you want to insert, or you want to upsert, you can use a data after load. You don't have to write a code. You don't have to write for loop and pass in a list and pass in all the data and add again everything to the list. And after the for loop, then you do this update statement or insert statement, whatever it is. You don't have to do all of that. Just create a data after load, define the object, define your primary key, and define what data goes into which field. That's it. It's all configuration. Then transform and calculation procedure we can see when we work, when we have our actual training sessions. We have one of the most powerful tool which I feel in Vlocity is integration procedures. It handles such complex functionalities, almost whatever you execute in your Apex, like try catch block or for loops, lot of backend logics, lot of actions and everything. All of that can be done using integration procedures. There's much more to it. It's a very powerful tool. It can invoke APIs. You can expose Salesforce data as an API through an API using integration procedures and all of that. Right. So I'll just give me a second. I'll show you an example. Right. It has much more things. For example, when you open Facebook, your profile name, your profile picture, and few of the details are not going to load every time, but the feed is going to load. Or for, sometimes when you don't have internet connection, the previous feed still stays in your screen. So you can do that as well. You can store all certain data in your temporary memory, and you can pass in that later on. I mean, you don't have to unnecessarily depend on, fetching the data again and again. You can store the certain details in cache memory. So just give me a second. Right. This is an example of exposing Salesforce data as an API. So it works as a get method. You can even invoke this from Postman, basically from any external system. All you have to do is just activate. This is an integration procedure. This is how the screen looks, and all the components that Vlocity provides, which I said, are on the right side. You just have to drag and drop and define properties like what it does. Right? For example, you drag and drop a text field into an Omni script. You define what is the name of the text field, whether it's a required or not, whether you want to mask the data inside it, something like that. So you can define all those properties. So for each component that you drag and drop, there'll be different set of properties. So this is one example where on giving account number as a input, I should be able to fetch certain details like country, ID, and name. Right? So yep, when I pass it, when I execute, I'm able to fetch. When I pass something incorrect, it shows a failure. When I pass a blank value, it shows a different input, or basically different input, so different output. So you can configure all the positive, negative scenarios and technical error. You can handle all the technical errors. Technical errors in the sense when you, let's say when you're trying to update a bad restricted pick list with the wrong value, so it gives you a bad pick list error. You need to handle that in the backend so that you can debug it later on. Otherwise, you may miss updating that particular thing. Right? Customer would have done something in the UI, but in the backend you have not updated it because you got some error. So if you know what is the error, you can deal with it. So you can handle functional, technical errors, all the negative scenarios and positive scenarios in integration procedure. To build this, once you know what it does, all you get a better picture. It hardly takes 10 minutes to build it. But whereas for the same thing, if you write an Apex class handling all the negative scenarios and everything, it will at least require 60 to 70 lines of code. Right? Invoking an API, it's literally this simple. It literally needs only two components that needs to be dragged. HTTP, basically, yeah, just try to understand one thing. Invoking an API is always going to be the same. All you need is the type of method, the endpoint, any authorization details like client ID, client secret, or username, password, right? So if every time it is the same, why do you have to create an Apex class newly every time? So that's what Vlocity has done. You drag and drop HTTP action, which is a component provided by Vlocity. In the backend, Vlocity takes care of running that Apex class for you, using the parameters that you're passing, using the properties that you define. It's simple. Weather API, it's an open API. So when you give a city name, it gives you the, sorry, just a minute. Just give me a second. Yep, when you pass in the city name, it gives you all the details of that particular weather of that particular city. Right? All I did was drag and drop a HTTP action, define the properties like what is the endpoint. Let's say if MuleSoft is the middleware, you want to make a call to that endpoint, the method, the rest options like what are the parameters or if you have any headers and all of these. And finally, have a response action. Okay. So it's this simple to invoke an API in Vlocity, right? So yep, this is pretty much about what Vlocity does and what are all the features that are available in Vlocity. Once we start our regular classes, we'll discuss on each on every topic, all of these components and these out-of-the-box features. And we provide exercise guides as well, which you can use them and you can work on them whenever you have time, right? So we'll discuss about all of these components and all of these most of the available feature components that are provided by Vlocity. And yep, you will be able to pretty much good to go with the Vlocity. So just a minute, I'll show you some examples of clients that are using Vlocity, telecom clients especially. I'll give a little idea so that you can have a better picture. So this particular client, M1 Telecom, is using both front-end and back-end Vlocity, right? So all the logics that get executed in the backend, like all these API calls, Vlocity, integration procedures, no Apex is used, and all the UI only for this UI styling. Other than that, everything else is done using Omni Scripts. Right? Then again, this is Visible, Verizon subsidiary. This is also Verizon is also using, and Visible is also using. So this front end is external system. Basically, they had a different idea. They also have a mobile app. So for a mobile app, obviously you need everything you do is a API call, right? Any button you click should be an API call in the backend. So if that is the case, why not implement the same in the front end? So that's what they thought. So they went for an external UI system. So backend, they just built all the logics for commonly for mobile web apps. Okay. So any button I click, I'll just show it here itself. Go to inspect element and click on network. So if I click a button, It's basically an API call being made to Salesforce, Vlocity, right? This is an integration procedure which is retrieving all this product information, all these products data, right? So an integration procedure is being run in the backend. So yep, coming to that question asked by Sunil. So yep, here it is a simple API. Here you have to fetch the products. So middleware will be there, but it is just a pass-through. Front end calls the middleware's API, and middleware calls MuleSoft. They'll call.
Okay. So middleware license required for that, right? Customer needs the middleware, right? Velocity not sufficient only.
Right.
Because in integration procedure, you have passed that URL and get method you called, right? So basically, it is passing to the middleware. That one.
Right. So yep, it depends. Completely depends on the client. For example, let me give a brief idea. Let me just choose a product. This is basically another API call which is fetching this more product details information, and I'll add it to the bag.
Okay.
And this is another API call. Now here, when I give my first name, email address, password, and everything, when I click on continue, multiple API calls need to be run. So that is why you need a middleware. So middleware should be able to handle this. If it is a existing customer, you may need only one single API call to fetch his login details. If it is a new customer, you have to create account, you have to create contact. So multiple APIs needs to be called from a front end. So front end will only call one API, which is your middleware, and middleware takes care of calling multiple APIs of Vlocity. So yeah, most probably you will require it. Basically client requirements are going to be much complex, right? So yep, middleware has to be there.
Okay. So in Vlocity, somewhere we will set the path of middleware, right?
Right.
So then system will know that where we need to send request and all that.
Right.
Okay.
So yep, everything else is going to be Salesforce. What the normal Salesforce is there, that is still be there. It's just a managed package that you install, which gives you these additional. So yep, in order to configure a middleware, you have to go to remote site settings.
Any advantage over integration procedure on Data Raptor? Why we use integration procedure? Right? Data Raptor is also extracting data from Salesforce, right?
Integration procedure is there to do much more complex things. Like data Raptor extract is just one part. Like you can call a data Raptor extract an integration procedure, but it can, for example, a conditional block. It is basically checking. It is nothing but an if condition in your Salesforce Apex, right? And
right.
There is a try catch block which acts like a try catch in your Salesforce Apex. There is a loop block which acts like a for loop. So yeah, there are much more complex functionalities that can be executed using an integration procedure.
Okay, got it.
Right, and coming back, in our training, we are going to cover, as I said, we are going to cover all these out-of-the-box features and all these Vlocity components. And yep, we'll mostly, I don't use slides or anything in the classes. I prefer to explain while showing an example like this, and I'll give some exercise guides which you can use and which you can. It will also have solutions, so you can use it and work on it, right? And for most of these topics, for example, order management, orchestration, and decomposition, even though we have a session, even though I explain, it could be a little tough to understand because unless
can you go high level? What is the orchestration scenario, item, plan, and the conditions are there, right?
We'll take care of that.
And source.
Yeah, we'll take care of that in the training sessions, because if we talk about that now, it will be up to like 1 or 2 more hours. So, and most of them people who don't know order management won't understand all of these things. Yep, that's what in our training we'll take care of that. We'll take care of creating each and every, as you said, orchestration plan, creating all the types of orchestration items, creating decomposition relationships, scopes, and all of that. So yep, we'll take care of that in the training.
Is there any prerequisite or how we can perform the hands-on at all? Can you elaborate on that?
Yep. For most of the order capture journey, I'll be explaining and I'll be parallelly showing a requirement, simple requirement. We keep on extending that as we learn more and more components. And yep, to get a hands-on, I'll give you some exercises which you can look at, and you can work on that. And we'll have a separate session on one session over the weekend to discuss any doubts or how to proceed or anything. And for EPC and CPQ as well, I'll do the same thing. Order management, it's like I'll give a document which will have all the details about how to create and everything. It's just that until or unless you are in a project, it's tough to understand. So I'll give all the details, and I'll give an exercise guide on this as well. It's just that once you are into a project, once you get requirements, then once you look at these documents, pretty much it will be easier for you.
But suppose I don't have that managed package in my org at all.
Oh,
then I can.
As part of our training, we'll provide you a training org for access for 3 months. We'll give you Vlocity Success Community is a closed source, unless or until your company that you're working in has a partnership with Vlocity, you'll not get the access. So we'll provide the training org, we'll provide the Success Community access, and yep, you can practice in that trial org itself.
Hi Dilip, this is Chandu. So one question is, we have Salesforce CPQ itself, and we have some other CPQ tools on Salesforce, like Aptos or some other thing.
Right, Aptos.
Yeah, so when we compare all these tools, so you're saying like Vlocity is a much faster, like more enhanced tool.
It's more like Vlocity CPQ. They could have gone for actual Salesforce CPQ or Aptos CPQ, but they have created another version of CPQ, which is Vlocity CPQs, because you don't require, for example, let's take Excel sheet. There are millions of features which we are not even aware of in Excel sheet. We don't even use them, but they are just there. So there is no point in having them like that. So that's why Vlocity has customized the CPQ and created new version of it called Vlocity CPQ, which has all the components and all the elements that are required to build a pricing catalog for your telecom projects.
Okay. Yeah. It's majorly for telecom, is it?
Yeah, majorly for communications, media, telecom, entertainment, energy, and utilities.
And if in case, like if it is a financial services, something like that, then some other CPQ tool is a preferred one, is it?
No, in Vlocity there is no financial service. Insurance and health are there, but they have a different way of pricing. They don't have this CPQ at all. They have in insurance and health, they have different system to handle that process.
Okay. I mean, so the main problem is the Salesforce itself is have another CPQ tool, and Vlocity is something they have acquired. So that's why the thing is like in future, what is a Salesforce roadmap or something like that which they will support, whether it's a Vlocity or Salesforce CPQ? Maybe it's a wrong question, but that's what I'm.
Okay. Yeah. So yeah, CPQ is a different, just like how Vlocity is a managed package. CPQ is also something like that, and CPQ is an entirely different thing. And yeah, just like how Vlocity is a product of Salesforce, CPQ is also going to be there. And as long as Vlocity is there, in Salesforce, Vlocity is going to support Vlocity CPQ as well. So it's basically all the Salesforce products, and yep, they're always going to be there. They keep supporting all the features. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. Anyone else has any other questions?
Like Vlocity, what are the demand tools on Salesforce on top of Salesforce? Today we are going to Vlocity. On top of that, any
I didn't get your question.
See, we are using on top of Salesforce, we are using Vlocity, right? To overcome that what problems are in Salesforce. Easily flow. Like that, any tools are there, like Vlocity.
There is this Viva CRM, which is specific to pharma industry, which is also one of the topmost product of Salesforce. There are so many customers who are using Viva CRM, but they're only stick to one part. They're only stick to pharma industry. So Vlocity is into 6 different industries with more out-of-the-box features, and especially these components, these interaction and data tools, which gives you
I'm working for Infosys. The same thing we are using these data wrappers and transform. The same Vlocity we are handling.
Okay. Verizon?
Yeah, Infosys.
Okay.
Yeah, same Vlocity components, CPQ, EPC, different teams are there, like XOM.
Yeah,
right?
XOM.
Integration procedures and M1 Singapore project only we are handling. We are using Jira and the things, same thing, calculation matrix. What you are showing, that is exactly shooting.
Right. Yep, I was also in M1 when it started using Vlocity. Yep, I'm not sure how they are doing it now, but when I was there, it was all entirely front end was built on Omni Script. We'll talk about this also, how they came up with that kind of approach, and we'll see how they did at that time. I'm not sure how they are doing it now.
Yeah, same thing we are using now. There also we are using this same Singapore project. They whatever mention tools and orders, items, plans, scenarios, and conditions. They based on the conditions, flow will come, decompositions, source product, and destination. The same thing we are handling based on the requirement we are handling.
Okay. One more thing I would like to add is, since Salesforce has acquired Vlocity, they are concentrating so much on Vlocity because until 2017-18, well, Salesforce has reached that saturation levels. Like all the clients that who wants to move to cloud are already using either of these 4 clouds, like Salesforce, Microsoft, Amazon, or Google. So they already moved. So like Salesforce was not getting more and more business. It reached saturation. But Vlocity, once it started rising, it got, I think, around $60 million more of business. I'm not sure the exact number. Salesforce business started growing more. So Salesforce now has acquired, and at a really fast pace, they are trying to implement more and more features, like bringing in LWC into Salesforce, Vlocity. And more additional features, more customization from their end. That customization from our end is less, and the scope of Vlocity is really good. Like you just have Vlocity in your resume and you keep getting calls. Like you, at a point of time, you have to switch off your phone. You'll get irritated because of those many calls. And next thing is, right now, Salesforce Vlocity is especially into insurance, energy utilities, and majorly into telecom. So you don't have to worry about the scope. And finally, if you are into Vlocity, for a longer run, it will be good for you because I was also into various types of projects. Like I worked in pharma. I even worked in Viva CRM. I worked in automobile projects. So until you start Vlocity, you would have worked in various domains. But once you start with Vlocity, it helps you grow to the next level. Like you can move to the next level where from developer to architect, it acts like that bridge, because It concentrates more on the domain specific knowledge. So you will gain more domain specific knowledge. So remember one thing, your platforms may change. Salesforce may be there today, may not be there tomorrow. Vlocity may be there today, may not be there tomorrow. Maybe something more advanced may come, but the domain is not going to change. So order management is there from 50 years, 60 years, I don't know since when. The way we execute is may little bit changed, but the process is not going to change.
One question over here. Like as you mentioned that Vlocity is already provided 80% of the things already developed over.
Right.
So what is the role of exactly the developer or that thing? Are they only for the configuration?
Yep, mostly, for example, visible. Let's take visible. iPhone 13s came recently, right? So as a developer, you'll configure these products using Vlocity's product catalog, Vlocity product console. You'll build all these product details. You'll build this pricing. You'll give this pricing details. You configure the, just give me a minute. Okay. All the SKUs. SKUs are there for inventories. You know, all this data you will try to add, colors, RAM, capacity, all these, and features you will configure, specs, all of this. And maybe they want a new feature. For example, nowadays you go to any e-commerce platform. Yeah.
Sorry to interrupt there, but for this all this configuration, it really means some techie guy needed, or means like admins or authors are fine to do that.
You definitely require a techie guy. So like one example which I was about to give. So Apple now in all e-commerce platforms, they want to provide this Apple Compare. So where you can compare all the iPhones, right? So to build this feature, let's go to that. In the backend, you may have to create an integration procedure. So just because it's configuration doesn't mean it's not technical. Whatever you do in your Apex class, you just try to achieve the same thing through configuration using integration procedure, right? By providing all these data. Whenever I change a mobile, I'll send a different data, right? So something like this. So any new feature that you implement in your project, you'll have to write data wrappers, you'll have to create integration procedures, you'll have to create Omni Scripts, all of this. So you don't have to write the code, but whatever you do in code, you should be able to do it in Vlocity using configuration. For example, I'll show you an Apex class. Just a minute. Right? The same requirement which we have built using integration procedure. By providing account number, we should be able to fetch all the account details, right? This is a Vlocity integration procedure, and this is your Apex class. In this Apex class, I didn't even add the negative scenarios, just only positive scenario. Pass in the account number and get the details and display it. Right? So whatever logics you build, whatever logic you build using Apex class, the same thing you should be able to do it using configuration. For example, here I'm writing a query. So instead of going for that, I'll create a data wrapper extract. Here I have a wrapper class to send all the details in one JSON. Instead, I'll have a transform, data wrapper transform. And to finally provide the response. In fact, in this Apex class, there is no negative scenarios. So if I add all the negative scenarios, it goes up to 50, 60 lines. Right? Yep. So based on your requirements, you may integration procedure is definitely not going to look this simple. When you are in a project, in your integration procedures may have up to 100, 150 elements or 100 to 150 components inside it. Right? Some may be executing asynchronous, some may be executing the same transaction. So that's what you have to do as a developer. Right? For example, there is too much complex functionality that needs to be executed. You need to break it down. You need to make some things as asynchronous, which doesn't have any UI dependency. So it's up to you how you configure and all of that.
What kind of rules we generally have in Vlocity? Is only developer rules?
That's what you have. Architect roles in Vlocity. Architect roles are basically dependent on domain. So it gives you that level of understanding of architect. You just start with a Vlocity project, 1 or 2 projects, and you'll be able to understand the whole architecture. Because one advantage is, I have worked in almost 5 to 6 plus telecom projects. I simply can close my eyes and go. I can tell what is happening where, because it's Vlocity and data model is always same. There is no major changes. Maybe based on client requirements here and there little changes. So yep, you can get that architect knowledge very quickly. Yep, you will have developers roles, you have technical lead roles, you have architect roles. At the end of our training, Kishore will help you out with some HR references, some companies which are hiring. He can help you out. Just whenever he asks, just be ready with the resumes. I'll even give you roles and responsibilities from some sample projects, so you can add that.
Okay, and the reason why I'm asking is, I have 15 plus years of experience, mainly into CRM. So I was into different parts of like civil CRM, and then now into Salesforce. As you said, Salesforce has already reached to saturation that I could able to see. So I'm just looking to extend my wings to some other things like Vlocity or MuleSoft.
Right.
So
right.
that's why yeah.
Right. Yeah. Vlocity, definitely will help you giving that architect knowledge. I mean, more into architecture side.
Okay. Yep.
Yeah, one more thing. What was the flow now? Vlocity, MuleSoft, and OpenAid, right? These 3 things are there, right? How the flow is coming from one stage to another stage, how the response coming back to the Vlocity from OpenAid again. That flow, is it covered or?
Yeah, we'll cover that as well. That's what at the end of the training, I'll give you how a knowledge on how these projects are working, what the backend logics that have been implemented. I mean, I don't give you the exact details because that will put me in trouble. But yeah, I'll give you an understanding of how they are working in the backend. Right? For example, this is Omni Script based, this is API based, and Roger's using half of this and half of that. I'll give you how they implement, how different architectures of different projects are being used. Right?
Yeah.
Any other questions? Anyone?
Yeah, actually, not a question, but a suggestion. Like someone might be already asked, like a Salesforce situation. So currently, I'm also on the Service Cloud and looking to run some new cloud or some tool, I think. So how it will be useful means because I'm not currently on the project on the Vlocity, I'm on the Service Cloud. So if I took the training and complete the training also, so how it will be means on the switch time, they will ask the experience, right? Hands-on experience.
Yep,
So will it be feasible to do at time, or first I need to check the project in the same company?
No, yeah. I think until now, from last 1 year, I almost have 70 to 80 plus students, and out of that, almost 50 got placed, and they have messaged me. So it's not about it's more about the demand you have, and also the content which we have in our training will be more than sufficient. And at the end, I'll give you this project knowledge, how these various projects are working. So you can say that you have experience of around 3 to 4 months, so which will be more than enough. So now just have Vlocity, just try it out, have prepare your resume and add velocity in that. So now you yourself see the number of calls you get for the next 1 week.
Okay.
Yep.
Thanks.
Thank
Yeah,
you.
Dilip, I have
Yeah, please.
Yeah, Dilip, I have one question. So in your course, you will cover which industry specific, like Velocity, like CMT or insurance?
Majorly
or
into
me?
CMT, and whatever we cover in CMT will be there in energy and utilities as well. It's just that energy and utilities have few less features. Whatever is there in
Okay.
CMT is already there in energy and utilities. Insurance and health, if anyone is into their projects, I can give you the idea of data model, and I can give you how they are working, a little idea on that. I can say I'm more proficient in
CMT.
telecom industry. Yeah, CMT especially.
Okay, and overview means others, other industries you will give the overview on data model. Right?
Yeah. Other industries in the sense we only have three more remaining: insurance, health, and government. Insurance and health are almost similar again.
Okay. Yeah, that's fine.
Yeah. Nagendra, you also have some question?
Yeah, you already answered. I was about to ask you which domains you will cover during training.
Oh, okay. Yeah. So it will be communications, media, entertainment, and energy and utilities. These five different things will be covered. They are almost similar, in most of the cases.
And the sessions will be completely like you will show us the examples by doing it, right?
Right. So yep, this was one of the example which I have showed in the previous batch. Like I don't show the exact same thing. I'll create again newly, and I'll explain why we have done each of these components and why. Mostly, I'll also concentrate on optimizing, all these components, because since it's a configuration, everyone tends to, just drag and drop the components simply, even if it is not needed, which will affect the performance. So I'll concentrate more on performance based also, how to, optimize each of these components and how to make sure that your browser Apex CPU time is always less. Right.
Yeah, the flash timings and all, is it the session time?
I'll get in touch with Kishore. He will be able to, he will contact you. He will decide on the timing. So, yep. I'll also get in touch with him. So, yep. If you have any specific criteria, like you can't attend in the morning, you want it in the night, or let's just discuss it with Kishore. He will take all the preferences, and based on that, we can have a class training.
Okay.
Right. And yep, the training is going to be for minimum 30 hours. That means it can extend up to 6 weeks. Like we'll have on weekdays, all the weekdays. So yep, maybe I'm also working, so 1 or 2 days may miss, but yep, most probably we'll try to complete in under 6 weeks. And yep, sometimes we'll have a 1 hour session on the weekend, maybe on Saturday or Sunday, to discuss on the doubts or any clarifications on any exercises that you are working on.
Is this sufficient for the certification as well?
Right. I'm actually, I shouldn't be saying this online, but yeah, I'm actually working on trying to get the latest dumps. Salesforce has made it more complex now. So, yep, I'll try to get the dumps, and yep, if you come take this training, and if you regularly practice, because configuration, you may forget certain things. So if you regularly practice it, then yeah, it'll be much easier for you. With this training, you'll be able to clear it. But yeah, I'll definitely try to get the dumps as well. Yep. If anyone else has any other questions, you can ask me. Otherwise, we'll close it. You can get in touch with Kishore on this number and this email address. All right.
How about freelancing jobs? Can we do that as well for Vlocity?
Yeah, if you are ready, there are right now itself. I have so many people waiting to get the freelancing. If you are ready, then yeah, I can give the context right away.
And this training is sufficient to do that?
Oh yeah, more than enough. It's just that you need a hands-on. So yep, just get this training and at least work for 1 or 2 months in a project. It's more than enough because you will be able to understand the whole architecture pretty easily. So because I'll try to give all the practical examples which have been implemented in across the project. So it will be much easier. Just get a little bit of experience and then you'll be able to do it.
Mm-hmm. Okay.
So one last question I have. After this training, how many months of experience we can gain?
I would say 6 months, but yeah, in your resume also you can say that you have gone through a training, maybe from your company itself, and then you started working on a project from last 5 or 6 months. So yeah, that will be yeah, enough. And I'll give you roles and responsibilities that you can add for a Vlocity project, and I'll give you the client names. So yep, that will be good enough. And one thing I recommend is don't say that you have worked on order management because it's a little complex thing. Unless or until you are in a project, even if you go through any number of trainings, it will be a little tougher. So yep. Other than that, you can all the remaining topics, order capture or any of these Vlocity components, EPC, CPQ, you'll be ready right after this training.
And to gain that order management experience, we need to do anything, or it is no way we can get it from the trainings? Or
it has to be a project because yeah, I'll try my level best. I'll give some. There are practice guides itself which has a proper requirement, but still it's like it's a huge concept more than a understanding a technology. It's more about the concept. So yep, unless or until we are in a project and we get proper requirements and we struggle a little bit there, then only we'll be able to understand the clear picture. Yeah, I'll try my level best to give you the detailed, complete details, and also for future reference, I'll give you documentation for both orchestration and decomposition and order management, the entire order management process. So yep, even if you don't get it entirely during the training, maybe when you are working on a hands-on project, then you'll be able to relate everything very easily. And if you have any doubt, you can just simply look at the document.
okay. So actually, I'm from a civil CRM, Oracle CRM, and which has a robust order management system.
Right.
So I think if you know that,
yeah,
it will
then
be easy here as well.
Then yeah, I think it'll be good for you. I am just telling in general because in general, most of the people try to get this Vlocity training to switch the company or something. So yep, it'll be a little tough for them. That's why I recommend not to add order management in the resume. You can say that I worked in the other parts of Vlocity.
Okay, got you.
Okay, yep. All right. If no other questions, then we'll close. You can get in touch with Kishore. He will be able to help you out on remaining details of the training, when it starts, what is the pricing, what are where to attend, how to attend, and all of these details. All right. Thank you. Thanks, everyone.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.